Thank you guys all for being here. It's a deep pleasure. I have, in fact, I've thought about this, but I've taught at Columbia longer than any other single thing I've done in my life, which I think says I'm just unemployable by anyone else. But it's also, it's really fun and very gratifying to be up here with these three. Carly and I have known each other for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
And she started her company, I don't know, it's explicitly out of my class, but close to it, right? And Jeremy and I were 17, 18, started in the class. I have a lot of great stories about that. On the last day of class with Greenhouse, he was the TA. He created a rap, true story, created a rap synchronized with a pitch deck that covered every startup in the class. And it was really super cool. Right?
Without AI.
Without AI. And Hans and I were classmates, and there are a lot of stories I won't tell. But we've known each other for over 30 years, and it's been a rich and rewarding time. I want to say one quick thing about the commonality between these three people, and I think you'll see it as a real thread that defines how we think about entrepreneurship and what we coach people to do. You know, is we're trying to cultivate people who are ambitious, not for money necessarily, but for ideas and impact, right? And each one of these people defined a world that they wanted to live in, and they've created that world. And I won't go on for too long, but Hans is really a pioneer. Hans is really a pioneer in venture capital. Thanks for the assist. And started in Silicon Valley a really interesting hybrid model in venture. Today, that's probably the biggest fund in its class, or overall family of funds, or close to it, right?
Yeah. I just say yes.
And Jeremy, I'll never forget this, but on a March Friday night in 2009, maybe
2010, yeah.
I'm at home, probably 2 glasses of wine in, and I get a call at 8 o'clock. And it was Jeremy on the other line. He says, "Brendan." I'm like, "Yeah." "You never guess where I am." I'm like, "Okay." "I'm on the steps of Capitol Hill, and I just came out of this conference on flexible spending." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "It's gonna be awesome," you know. And I've told that story a lot of times, but it really is indicative of the passion, you know, that he brought, and it just, you know, he really created a category that became a very successful company. And Carly Bigi is a total pioneer in machine learning as applied to fashion tech, and really has built you know, an incredibly successful company, and persisted through a ton of, you know, challenges and ups and downs, and really, you know, that's what it takes. I'll stop in 1 second, but I will say that people talk about different reasons why companies fail. Companies fail because people give up. That's why. Everything else is a byproduct of that fact, if it happens. Okay, and you're looking at people that don't know how to do that part of it. So with that,
Or we didn't have an option. Stop.
Yeah, cheers to that. So I want to, you know, the theme of this is around community and building and so on. And I want to talk about how in the face of challenge, you've reflected back on your own network and how it has had an impact. And if you can cite a specific example even, that would be awesome. Maybe we'd start with you, Carly.
Yeah, the impact of our network.
Yep.
You know, it's impossible to talk about laws of motion without talking about Columbia Business School. And it did start in Greenhouse and then the startup lab. But I remember early on, we started with 1 million data points, right? So laws of motion is an AI sizing technology that's solving the $1 trillion return crisis for apparel brands. So we built in our own brand, incubated the technology for 5 years, and now we're licensing it to other apparel brands around the world. and it reduces returns and increases conversion. And so when we first got started, we had 1 million data points, which I thought was amazing. And now it's like tens of billions of data points and growing exponentially. But so many classmates were like, wow, you've got this huge data set. You should meet with Charlie. I'm like, who's Charlie? And Charlie's effectively a computer with legs. He was a classmate of mine. And we met for a cup of coffee. And I was like, Charlie, like, here's how I'm thinking about our architecture. Like, is it even possible to build this? Like, and he's like, hold on, like, how did you get to this point? And I was like, well, I've been bootstrapping and crowdsourcing and all these things. And he goes, yes, like, I know that this can be built. And I know that because I can build it for you. And I'll build it for you if you let me invest. How does X amount sound? And I was like, sounds like a pretty great ROI and a cup of coffee. And so we got to work the next day. He deferred his offer at Google and joined the team for the next 9 months. And it all came from, curiosity, putting out what we were building and asking for any recommendations of humans we should know. And that's how it all started at Columbia.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
Yeah, so my business is Health E-commerce. We're the parent company of 2 websites, FSAstore.com and HSAstore.com. They help millions of people that have tax-free FSA and HSA dollars spend our funds really easily. So we actually launched our business at the school. I took every single class I could. As Brendan said, I TA'd to try to get some money to put into the business. Did every competition that was there. Like, I really utilized the power of community. And it was even actually before I even started the business or even had the first idea, I was able to reach out to old founders that had come through the program. And I'd say, hey, I'm a potential student. Can you talk to me? And 100% of people would give me the time to talk to them. I was talking to the CEO of diapers.com, which at the time was one of the largest e-commerce companies, and he was helping. It was just tremendous to see the power of community really come together and to really see the support that people had. And I think the Lang Center, especially in all the programming that they did and all the access that they gave to the students. And then also being entrepreneurial themselves. So I helped start the Summer Startup Lab. I was a J-termer, and we found there was a bunch of us that were like, had the summer. We weren't doing internships because we wanted to start our business. So I went to the administration at the time and said, hey, can we start a program in the summer where some of us can start our businesses and work on them? So our inaugural class had like 12 people. I think right now there's like 175 companies that are working this summer to start their businesses. So just a couple ideas of the power of the network and how it's really supported. And ultimately, we wouldn't be around if it weren't for Columbia in this program.
And then my formation story of this business is really kind of a outgrowth of my other 2 businesses I had before. And when I graduated Columbia, I was with Brendan's class. And Brendan started a company that was online classifieds. And then I started a company after I had a little stint at Nestle after school, quit and started a business that helped help the browser run an application in it. Because at the time in 1995, the browser didn't run applications through it. And so I moved to Silicon Valley and started a software company. And through the, I guess, camaraderie we had with Brendan and some others that started businesses out of our school, it just was helpful to compare notes and complain to each other about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And then after 2 internet infrastructure companies, I started a fund business, and this business, which I still manage, is 25 years old. Originally, I started it with one of my classmates, Norman Villarina, and he convinced me to start a fund business because I was a software entrepreneur. And I don't think I would have probably done this if it wasn't for him kind of pushing me to do it. And so, yeah, I would credit him for kind of giving me the confidence to start this business.
Let me ask a quick follow-up to that, because relatively speaking, when you and I graduated from business school, there were not a lot of people from Columbia that were migrating to Silicon Valley. And when you got there was not a
There were 3 of us.
Right. And talk about today what it looks like and how you've been a part of cultivating community and networking there.
So when I first moved out there, I was kind of lonely because no one went to Columbia out there. And so, yeah, it was just 3 of us, I think, that were in the Bay Area at that point. And so I tried to create a Columbia Tech kind of network and do events and things, and there really nobody would really show up. Funny enough, it's kind of too early, and so I kind of, after 3 years of trying to bang the drum and nobody's going, nobody showed up, I gave up. But I think in the last 10 to 15 years, there's enormous amount of people in the ecosystem of Columbia Business School that have come out to the Bay Area, and also in New York. I think New York has changed a lot. Brendan was one of the first entrepreneurs here in New York. Funny enough, back in the day, that was a very small community. I think there was only like maybe 50 startups or something when you started your business here in New York. And now New York is like a global hub of startups. So I think New York itself has changed a lot. The school's changed a lot, obviously, as well. And then a lot of people have come out to the Bay Area just due to the success of all those businesses to either work at them or bring their startups to the Bay Area. So the community is really large now.
And Jeremy, you're almost 20 years ago now, really starting to build FSA Store and then Health E-commerce, and maybe you talk about Columbia's role in the New York City ecosystem broadly, and then specifically how you've seen people grow and how you've leaned on that network yourself. And I would add one addendum, which is, I don't know how many people know this about him, but as he was building that company, multiple years in a row, it was like a Crane's Best Place to Work. And it was all about like being part of a family, and community was really fundamental to, I think, your success.
Yeah, culture was always the most important aspect of my business. But we were actually built in Columbia. So when we graduated, my business partner over there and I were in a breakout room at Warren Hall, and we basically squatted for the summer to build this business. It was great. It was a great power of the network. We got free Friday EMBA lunches and dinners. We hacked the Wi-Fi password, so we had endless Wi-Fi. The only weird part was that we had to interview some people, and they would come to the school and be like, "Why are we at a school?" Like, don't worry about it. I'll be in a breakout room. It's fine, And so we had a couple of people like kind of just turn around and walk out. The next year, funny enough, they started the program down in Soho, which is the space for entrepreneurs. So we like to say that we helped build that space because, I was telling 30 entrepreneurs, like, hey, just stay in Warren Hall in the summer and it'll be fine. But in terms of it was just so important to have the ability to rely on the Columbia network and still rely on the school even past, graduation. Like we weren't really like left alone. It was like as much resources and help that they could offer, they were willing to offer. And it's really cool to see now how some of those things that we like 15 years ago when we were like, we need engineers. How are we going to get engineers? Oh, there's an engineering school like next to our school. Like how are we going to do that? And now I think there's like 300 engineers have helped startups in the Columbia Business Program with work and help. So just a testament to what's really coming out of the program here. It's just really amazing to see. I'm on the board of the Lang Center too, so we get to see the startups and we get to see what's coming out of New York. And there's just a tremendous amount of alumni startups, of current business startups. I mean, it's just the ecosystem is so vibrant, and it's really nice to see that. And it's really variant across all different industries too. It's not like food tech or a lot of consumer goods, which you see a lot, but you're just seeing all walks of life and business coming out of these programs. So it's really interesting to see that. It's all in New York. It's fun. It's fresh, and we definitely utilize the advantages.
Carly, I am at the risk of asking. You're getting angry at me because I'm going to ask a gender-specific question.
Okay.
I want to say this past spring in the greenhouse, at least half of the students, or maybe close to that, were women, and 20 years ago that just was not the case. And I would ask you to share your perspective on how you've seen both the support systems evolve, and if so, how. I'm not trying to answer the question for you. and what else we can do to improve that.
Great question. It's so funny because yes, I'm a female founder, but I identify as a founder. So it's hard to say, the opposite of what it'd be like to be a male founder when that's the only thing you've known. I will say that I've never thought that way because I've never been in a room where I felt that way. Like there's always been equality in terms of resourcing and certainly connect with other female founders along the way, like at different women's events and people at all points in their founder journey. And it's interesting because that elevator was sent down for me. I feel like I'm very in tune with sending it back down to new founders, female founders that are graduating, and we end up gravitating towards each other. It's when you're one of the only women in the room, especially as a female founder in tech. I think it's a superpower, and I've always embraced it as such. But it's great to hear that 50% of founders were women. That's incredible.
I
I
you
think
cannot
that's one of
ignore
two.
the distribution
Yeah.
anymore. It's really
I love that. Go Columbia. It's great.
yeah, I don't even think of it as intentional. I just think of it as, this is the population who's gravitating towards what we're doing. Well, maybe I can ask, how much time do we have left before presentations, Laura? What can we do better? And if there's anybody in the audience that has a comment on that, I'd welcome it, to be honest. That this has to be about continuous improvement. And in terms of community building and outreach and how we identify and support the next group of people, what should we be doing more?
I think the Lang Center has always done a great job enabling community and bringing great minds together and, alumni from every point in their careers. And I think more of that, community is a living, breathing thing, right? And you get from it what you put into it. And so I think that the lost art of life being a contact sport is a thing. I mean, here we are in a full room, which is awesome on a Saturday. And I think that encouraging more and more of that real life connection is such a powerful thing. People get things done, not process. So showing up, spending time with great people, and really investing in and gaining from those relationships, I think is huge. And it's a strength at the Lang Center, but I think something that we can continue to do better year over year, especially with so much growth in entrepreneurship in New York.
Yeah, I would just add, I think what we could do better is actually reach out to all of you and try to get more information about what you're doing and who you are. It's amazing that we have 58 unicorns from Columbia Business School, but I bet all the audience here probably doesn't know, more than maybe 5 of them. So there's a ton of people out there that we should be grabbing. So I actually told Lara a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to make some calls and I'm going to try to call you guys because I want to help support, bring this network together. I want to, it starts with identifying the people out there that have, because there's so many startup businesses that we don't know about that Columbia alums are starting or have sold. And so I think really trying to utilize that power, I think that's something that we could do as a school to, we're already ranked really high in terms of, I think it's businesses, venture-backed businesses that have started after 2010 or something like that. But I think we're number 3 out of the whole ecosystem, but just trying to utilize that network to really understand you guys out there and see how you can better support, like Hans did with his donation.
Hans, you have a unique, at least from my point of view, a unique perspective in that you've been a early investor in many of the, most successful emerging manager funds in the U.S. You indirectly and otherwise have also funded some of the most important companies that we've seen in the last 15 years, right? And maybe there's some commonality that you've seen or you can identify that would be good for us to reflect on and then try to bring more into our day-to-day practice here.
I mean, I have a different perspective because when we graduated, there weren't really entrepreneurs coming out of the school. I think there was finance entrepreneurs, right? So there was, Henry Kravitz and Gabelli and Carson and all these like finance entrepreneurs, which I think is underappreciated here, because I think that there is a financial entrepreneurship that has come out of this school for probably longer than, I mean, you've got Warren Buffett. And, I mean, probably have one of the number one financial entrepreneurs, I guess, success rate coming out of the school of any of the schools.
Probably in the world.
And so I think that's underappreciated. I've talked to Costas about it and Hubbard and everybody. And there should be something here that, supports and embraces that more, because even though people view finance as kind of non-entrepreneurial, these buildings were built by financial entrepreneurs, and a lot of the most successful people that have come out of these programs have been financial entrepreneurs, and so I think that needs to be embraced as much as software and e-commerce and AI and all the other types of entrepreneurship that is out there. So that's the first thing I think we could do better there, of just embracing, honoring it, and creating programs around it, because this is a financial hub, and we've created some of the most amazing financial fund businesses in the planet, and I feel like that kind of got luckily ingrained into me a little bit doing this. But outside of that, I think that there's been an enormous amount of progress here since I've seen it, because I went out and did my own software company in '95 and then another one in '99, and there wasn't this support system. The Lang Center didn't really exist in this format. We didn't have 52 unicorns or 800 entrepreneurs or whatever the number is. And so I've just seen like what's been done here over the last decade has been great. I think it's been a reflection of what the demand is of people coming to the school, of then the school trying to figure out how to develop and kind of change into something that it wasn't, right? But I do think that that's here now, and just hearing your story, both your stories, is great to hear. And there's a program and a systematic, repeatable set of not only people, but processes and educational constructs here that I think wasn't here before. So I think it's fantastic. It's great to see. I kind of bummed that I wasn't here just to enjoy it, because I feel like maybe I would have.
This is why I still take the class every year.
Maybe that's why you're still here, because you wish it was here. But yeah, I probably wouldn't have had all these negative things happen to me when I started my business. I could talk to other people about it if these programs are here. So I think it's gone in the right direction. I think that Costas too is a good leader. I've spent a lot of time with him talking about his tech background and him trying to embrace technology and putting it in here and entrepreneurship. And I think that's made a difference.
Yeah, I love that. Excellent perspective. I one of you guys talked about the importance of physical communities and events. I think it was you, Carly, right? And it strikes me that we're in this place in history where we're really trying to navigate the intersectionality between in real life and digital events and communities and infrastructure, and it's hard, right? Like we all host physical events from time to time, and it's really tough to get people to show up, right? And the drop off is often significant. Like one of the things I would actually encourage the audience to do is come out for more than just alumni, reunion weekend. If you can manage it, it really makes a big difference to a student and into building community with people. Let me. We have time for maybe one more question. What advice would you guys give to anyone in the audience of any age or stage with respect to building their own network and community in the context of Columbia especially, and maybe beyond that?
Am I starting?
Yep.
I'd say that you get what you give. So like always lead with giving and offering introductions and offering suggestions or resources, and then just knowing that you get that back. And so I think it again, like community is like a living, breathing thing, and it takes that energy and intentionality to have a really meaningful organism. So I think always leading with giving.
Great point.
I think one of the hardest things for me setting up the business was was trying to find the right people that could help me launch this company. And in doing so, I found myself within the first year knowing that I wanted to start a business, but not really making any action to do that. And I was like, I applied here because I wanted to start a business. I wrote it on my application. I'm going to start a business. And I found myself in a year like not actually doing that. And so with the help of some of my cluster mates, I realized, I said, maybe this isn't for me. Like maybe if I set myself this goal, if I can't do something towards this business by this time, maybe it's just not for me. Like maybe entrepreneurship isn't, it's just not for me. And that helped me propel myself to really reach out to as many people as possible for support and for money and and all the different ways that helped really launch the business. Sometimes we'd find ourselves like in the library. Actually, we missed graduation because we were working on an idea for like a pitch that we had the next day for a company that we were partnering with. And everyone's like, "What are you guys still doing here? Like it's graduation." Like, well, we got some work to do. We got to launch this thing. So luckily, we kind of kept with it, and I hit that goal and just kept exceeding that goal. And it was all kind of to the power of the people around me that were so supportive.
I think that's important, underappreciated. When you're starting your own company and you're an entrepreneur, it's a really lonely place. And having a support kind of construct with other people that can be supportive of you when everyone that you're talking to every day is saying you're going to fail or your product's not going to work or it's going to take too long. Or, I mean, if I had a list of everyone who's ever said that I was going to fail, I would probably shoot myself. Luckily, I haven't done that. Thought about it. Yeah, that's what happens after a while. But I think surrounding yourself with people that can support you through that and can be a cheerleader for you when you're having problems, I think is really important because one of the things that I've been told by others that kind of stuck with me is it is about sticking through all of it, right? It's a lot of it's about how much pain can you take or ignore, which is a better way to do it. So, I've become deaf to critical feedback. That tells me that I have a listening disorder and some autistic issues. But I think those things are the reasons why I'm still doing this. Otherwise, I would have failed a long time ago, which would have meant giving up, not for. I think not giving up and having the support system for that and being able to stick through being broke for extended periods of time. I think that's important too.
That idea of the pain threshold, I think is a really important one. I think people talk about networks and support and community as being supportive. But what each of you referenced for a second, which I'd love to close on, is the idea that the most constructive communities and support systems also bring accountability, right? And one of the hardest things, like when you're raising money or you're pitching people or whatever, is the hardest thing is when people don't tell you the truth. It's the worst, right? It's much better if people give you straightforward feedback, even if it might be, immediately not comfortable to digest, but if you can get that, then that's actionable, and so and when you flip the mirror around, as the person who's trying to do something to create something meaningful, if you can seek people out and ask for that, and then listen for those signals and encourage people to be actionable, then you end up in a better place. And I think as a broad community, that's something we can do for each other that doesn't cost a lot, just a little time, you know, and the willingness to be uncomfortable sometimes, you know. So.
Yeah, thank you so much to our panelists.